I like to have people I have on introduce themselves. So like give us your name, your pronouns, what instruments you play, that sort of thing.
Cool. Okay. I'm Sebastian. I use he, him pronouns. I play in Chatterer with Dorie. I play the drums, but I also like play guitar in other bands. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm Dorie, and I use she or they pronouns, and I sing and play guitar in Chatterer, and I do vocals for Duckis. And yeah.
Gotcha. I also want to go ahead and apologize in advance. The Wi-Fi where I'm at is like really weird. Where like the connection speed's usually fine, but for whatever reason, it'll just drop out randomly every so often. So like if I lose connection, just like give me a few moments and I'll come right back.
Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah, no worries at all.
We're kind of like working with like semi busted phone plugged into the wall, so it's okay.
And also, I think there's a leaf blower next to our house.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully, it doesn't pick that.
It'll be a nice ambiance. I mean, y'all's audio is probably better than mine. Like I'm at my school, so like I felt there's such a really bad echo in this room. So also apologize for that.
Oh no, it's not too bad.
Yeah,
No,
you
fine.
sound good to us.
Okay. Good.
What school are you at?
Huh?
What school are you at?
I go to UGA, but like there's an extension campus in Albany, which is like this like relatively rural area in Southwest Georgia. Just because my program is weird. So like the first 2 years of the program, everybody's in Athens at the main UGA campus, and then the second half of the program, like we get distributed to different parts of the state. So like to encourage us to like practice in different areas.
Oh, cool. That's cool.
Pharmacy.
That's interesting. Oh, pharmacy. Okay. I'm working like on a contract in Georgia right now because I do translating for like educational stuff, and like, yeah, Georgia's like a interesting state. I didn't realize how I think it's cool that they're doing pharmaceutical stuff all across the state like that, because Georgia's so rural and so like small town.
Yeah, especially I guess since y'all are like, from the Florida perspective, you only ever see like South Georgia, which is definitely like super rural. But then it's like it's so weird that like Atlanta exists too. So it's like half the state's population is in like one metro area, and then the rest is all spread out.
Oh, I love Atlanta.
I don't know. The driving scares me.
Oh yeah,
driving
in Atlanta sucks.
I like the kids there though that are the band that are some bands there. Like that band that you saw at our house, Judy and the Jerks, are like living in Atlanta now.
Well, half of their band is.
Oh, half of their band. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I thought they were from Hattiesburg.
Yeah,
yeah. 2 of them live in Hattiesburg, 2 live in Atlanta now.
Yeah.
Y'all's band folks live in Tallahassee?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all here.
Yeah, our bass player Ryan, is also here in Tallahassee.
How long have y'all lived there?
Oh boy. Oh yeah. I've been the longest. Because I've been here since 2000, probably like started really living here like 2005. So I've been here for a long time.
Yeah, and I've been here, let's see, I moved here in 2011 for school. I went to FSU, and then when I graduated, I moved away, and then I moved back in 2018, I think. So probably a cumulative like 7 years living here. And then Ryan has probably lived here for at least 7 years.
Oh,
too.
Definitely. He's been here like 10 years or more.
Well, but he moved to Austin for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I guess he was there in Austin.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all kind of like Tallahassee, like local, like part of the local punk thing that's happening here, I guess.
Yeah, even though Sebastian and I are from South Florida.
Yeah, originally. Yeah.
Did you come for school as well, Sebastian?
I did, yeah, at first, yeah. And then I went back. I dropped out, and then I went back later. But after I dropped out, like Tallahassee seems just like a cool spot to live and like play music with, like, I don't know, it seemed like a cool place to just like stick around, and cheap living too.
So how would you describe the music that your band makes?
Well, so Chatterer is kind of a pop punk project. It's like indie garage, post punk. No, I don't know. I really don't know.
It's just every genre.
Yeah, it's well, because we had been doing hardcore. Our other band, Duckis, is a hardcore punk band, I would say.
Yeah, I think so.
But then I started kind of getting inspired to write more poppy songs because I've always written poppy songs and never really had an outlet for them. So yeah, I think it's like a pop punk band, Chatterer. What do you think?
I think like less so like the cheesy pop punk bands, like more harkening to like the more like the underground pop punk bands, I think.
Yeah, it might be.
And like also like, I don't know, what are those like the
like 90s garage rock sounding,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Some grunge, a little taste of grunge, maybe.
It's the internet age where we listen to everything, so the band becomes everything.
Exactly.
that's a
Yeah,
really good
it's
point,
hard
yeah.
to explain because it's just like I'll just write kind of catchy songs that are catchy to me and I like them. So I don't really know where my influences come from because I listen to so much different kind of stuff. And since we only have like, 8 songs or so, we're still a very new band.
And Sebastian, what about your other band? Is it, you said Squeeze USA, right?
Yeah, so like, well, I guess I would call that just like, I don't know, like modern, like American hardcore punk. That's a stupid thing to say. I'm sorry I said that. I don't know, just like punk, hardcore punk. I don't know, like strong 80s influence. Like, I don't know, but I don't really listen to that many 80s bands anymore. I do when I was more like in high school, but honestly, the bands that influenced me are much more modern these days. Anyway, but for Chatter, I love playing the drums. So playing in Chatter, I get to like draw on different influences in that.
So how would you describe the local Tally punk scene?
Eclectic. It's eclectic. There's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, it's something that you can tell has a long history. And it's actually cool. We have a friend who archives old show flyers and stuff. And it's honestly something that drew me to move back to Tallahassee after I had moved away, is because it's a really supportive punk scene. And it's been going on for a long time. It's always been an amalgam of different kinds of music and different kinds of people, and people come and go. And it's also, I mean, it's not all one scene. I think there are different aspects and different groups doing different things. But the scene that I am drawn to the most is super supportive, super DIY, and just a really cool thing to be a part of. We always do yearly cover shows where kind of like new people get introduced to the scene and get to play in bands. So to me, it was really welcoming when I started playing music in bands. I had played a little bit in college, just like played some music with friends, but I didn't really start like playing in bands that would play shows consistently until I moved back to town. And I was just like, oh, this is a really comfortable place to just play with my friends and have fun, and also get to meet all sorts of new people. We really like supporting people, touring bands and stuff. So yeah, I think it's a really good experience being part of the Tally punk scene. I mean, it changes so much year to year.
Yeah. Like it can definitely feel like college centric if you're not like in the music scene per se, or like if you haven't been here a while, like you can feel like, oh, everything's like based around the university, and like, but like I think if you like just look a little bit further, like there's just so many different kinds of bands, like, and like I was gonna say that like the music scene is kind of more tied into the art scene here, and also like kind of like more of like the activist-y scene. Like there's a lot of people that are like involved in like and like people who historically have played music here who have been involved in like a lot of activism. Like one example, Nightwitch is a good example of like a band that had like a lot of like, I would say, a feminist kind of like perspective, and like kind of like a more queer positive perspective than like punk music in the past has been. And like I think in some ways like Tallahassee has been really good at like churning out like that kind of like little punk scene. It's like kind of at first like in like Dorie said, there's a lot of different stuff, but like the punk scene we belong to is like kind of like really very like inclusive, and like like I think that a lot of the people that we surround ourselves with and like the people that play music also try to be that way.
Didn't y'all help set up a like mutual aid show a couple months ago for like the houseless fund?
Yeah, we're like part of like a
Tallahassee Houseless Alliance.
Yeah, we're part of a bigger group called Tallahassee Houseless Alliance, and we do a Tallahassee Community Aid Initiative through that, and we were actually raising money to support a woman who was houseless, but unfortunately she was actually arrested recently, and so what we've been doing is trying to like advocate for her while she's in jail waiting for her sentence, or for her not for her sentence but for her like her court date, and we're just like trying to like
While also supporting, just trying to do efforts to support the larger houseless community in town, because I was just reading recently, Tallahassee has, what is it, a 20% poverty rate or something? And then I don't know how much.
She said it was 7 points, like
7 points higher than the state of Florida.
Yeah.
So Tallahassee has a lot of poverty, a lot of houselessness.
Yeah.
And so I guess something I appreciate about the punk community is our community is very interested in politics and activism.
Yeah, and at the very least, like in supporting like activism, like if not like with their selves with money, but mostly with themselves too. I think everybody here is really thoughtful and like conscious. There's a lot of groups too. Like, I mean, there's like TallyCAC and like the jail fund and stuff like that. We have a lot of like little groups that are like doing a lot of really good work.
Yeah, I thought Lore was pretty cool too when I was introduced to them, the like radical ecology group.
Oh, cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, Eric was talking about that.
Oh, okay. Oh, Eric, are they based out of the plant? They do stuff at the plant?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, the plant is another really great place. Actually, the person we work with for the Tally Community Aid, Nick, they're kind of like our de facto kind of like founder. We was working with the plant a lot, and like maybe you would have heard about like their like kind of like sit in, and they like kind of like stayed in the plant for like, I don't know, was it like 18 days or some shit like that? Something nuts. Kind of like to bring awareness to houselessness and things like that.
So I think it's kind of interesting, like sad, but that there's so much houselessness or in like Tallahassee in poverty. It reminds me because like in Athens, where UGA is at, it's like very similar. Like one of the highest poverty rates in Georgia is in Athens, and there's definitely a lot of houseless people there. So like this makes me wonder if there's like some type of connection between what goes on with like massive universities and the poverty of the community they're in.
Yeah, I definitely think that the government, the city government, is often in service of our large FSU university, like
population.
Yeah, like I mean, we have two other big colleges here, and we actually have FAMU, and we have, Tallahassee Community College, but even, I mean, FSU is kind of like the king of Tallahassee, and housing development is all about housing students, not so much just the locals who live in town. Shopping centers go up and like restaurants go up in service of the students, and who, most of them are transient and don't live here for more than 4 years.
Well, yeah. So, but yeah, like Dorie was saying, like the development pretty much only favors the student population, but at the same time, they also like make it an effort to essentially to criminalize houselessness. They do it by writing laws, but also by doing things like removing like bus stops, in places where people use a bus stop frequently, just because it's a quote unquote disruption to like the nightclub that's there, where like the students line up outside the building, even during the freaking pandemic. And actually that is like a great example of like how a university's policies like absolutely like contribute to houseless people like not being seen as people worthy of dignity in like student populations' eyes. And not only because a lot of people already see No, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry.
No, please.
No, I was just gonna say, plus like we have all the like government people who come up just for a session. And so there's a lot of just like catering to the people who are only here sometimes, and not the people who live here all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and Tallahassee has like historically like quote unquote underrepresented community. There's a large Black population in Tallahassee that often is like unrepresented in Congress, like in not only in our state Congress, but also in our local Congress, or I mean, not only in the United States Congress, but also in our state Congress, national versus state, rather. I'm sorry, I'm fucking chewing over my words, trying to spit it out here. But yeah, so it's not only houseless people who are kind of swept under the rug. There is a lot of like working people in Tallahassee who are who the city and the university would prefer not be seen. It's pretty messed up. And the irony is that it's the capital of Florida, you know. So
maybe that's the connection there, that the government's just disconnected.
No, I think you brought up a good point though. I mean, why should universities, you know, be the ones to benefit from the taxes that we pay? Like FSU was just kind of like awarded or was going to be awarded a really large like tax funded thing to like improve the fucking football stadium. Like instead, like what we have 20% of people in poverty here. Like it's fucking crazy.
And I will say too, like if you in big cities, at least there are organizations, or in a lot of cities in America, there are organizations to at least get help someone back on their feet who might be houseless. But in Tallahassee, we had a really hard time finding any organization that was able to help. I know that there are some. Well, there's a homeless shelter, all the homeless shelters were at capacity, and so it's really hard to, especially in a small city like this that has certain priorities with their budget. It was really hard for us to try to help someone who wanted to get back up on their feet, to find ways and functioning nonprofits that had enough resources to help out, because the government doesn't often aid in those resources.
It's definitely, I know what you mean about the like smaller cities having less resources for like houseless people, in sense of like, and like, I mean, you're saying the homeless shelter is filling up, because I remember when I lived in Athens, like I would always walk home at after I went to like shows and stuff, so it'd be late at night, and I would pass by a homeless shelter whenever on my way home, and there'd always be a couple of people who were like sleeping on the corner next to it because of that capacity inside.
Yeah, and that's something that, like, you know, the city definitely has money to open another homeless shelter. They could do that, but they have other priorities.
Yeah, and I think that also, like, even in cities with like well-funded like houseless resources, I mean, Tallahassee is not so terrible. Like here, there's the Big Bend houseless coalition. There's also like the Tallahassee like house. I think it's a Tallahassee houseless coalition. And those are like two, like if somebody is experiencing houselessness, they can like call those places and like essentially receive referrals to go to places like the Kearney Center or
and the Kearney Center is a great facility. Yeah, and like, but they're always full.
They always fill up, and then there's always a problem of like people having you know, criminal charges, or people you know, being addicted to drugs, and unfortunately, like I think addiction is also a big issue that's often not addressed in when it comes to the issue of resolving houselessness. I think the issue of resolving houselessness is always seen as, oh, we have to get the houseless out of sight so that they can be out of mind, instead of, you know, oh, we actually have to address the underlying reasons why houselessness exists, you know, and think about providing like a more equitable housing solution for everybody.
Yeah.
Because, you know, addiction and having a criminal record aren't reasons why people should be living on the street.
But that's ideally often, you wouldn't even need a homeless shelter if you could just provide everyone housing and avenues to that.
And you know, those are often reasons why people are rejected from otherwise plentiful houseless or housing opportunities, you know, because the opportunity to exist, there's just always caveats that seem to favor people who have more access to resources.
Credit checks, like they'll check your income. It's like, how are you supposed to get an apartment if every apartment renter is checking all of these, your background and like your history and your credit and your income? Like, that's not something that everyone has.
What if you have no rental history? What then? You know, what if you don't have like any references? What then? Yeah, so much stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot that could be done from a lot of angles.
Mhm.
Yeah, sorry. We've been steeped in this shit for like a couple of months now, just like trying to help house this person that we've been working with. And so like we've gotten to know it like pretty well, and like getting to know like the pitfalls, because you start to feel hopeful about something and then you're just like, oh shit, here's another reason why this isn't gonna work. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm going on and on. I should stop.
No, it's good. I mean, these are important topics that need to be discussed and addressed meaningfully. So it's definitely something I should put more of my own energies into trying to help solve. Going back to something you said earlier, you said that like the music scene is really tied to the art scene in a way that's maybe not as strong in other cities. So can you elaborate more on that?
I guess what I meant is that like Tallahassee's like art and music scene in some ways is kind of just like relegated to one part of town, and that's like kind of like the arts district. So people who end up coming to shows and things like that, who aren't like intimately involved with like the punk scene or like the indie scene or whatever, the metal scene, hardcore scene, like will generally be people who like are attracted to art and will go like to art shows and will be like, oh, let's go see what music is over here, blah blah blah. And so you have like kind of like a more like liberal minded, I would say, or like left leaning kind of like little area where like the music stuff happens. That's not to say that other stuff doesn't also happen in those places, and that like the art scene doesn't also cater to like a more like apolitical crowd, or like a less, or a less like I don't know, a different kind of music or whatever. Like there's so many different kinds of music that's happening in the art district though. So I don't know what I was trying to say about that. Just that like there's like one part of town.
Well, yeah, and also in terms of it being tied to like art stuff, I would say that I like all the risk taking that people feel comfortable with in our scene, because we have, like I said, kind of a really supportive scene. You'll have some weird acts, like whether it's like, I put on some poetry and noise shows that were like, we had these awesome noise musicians, we had people read poetry, we had people doing experimental art, and then like a punk band too. It's kind of cool when you can merge scenes and it's not just like, oh, I only want to see bands that sound like this. No, I like that it's like, okay, we'll see any bands that this people in this community are trying out, or any art projects. I mean, I even hosted there's like comedy shows that go on that sometimes we overlap with,
and straight up art shows too, like that we do that people go to.
Yeah, I hosted like a game show type thing.
Yeah, our friend Stephanie Shrewsbury, like essentially like the venue that we play at is essentially like an art space, like full of her art, because she did the murals all over the walls and stuff like that. And
which we could mention the Bark. I mean,
Bark is kind of central to like
restaurant venue that book at a lot. Our friends kind of run that place, and it's been a good space to have any kind of activity we want, pretty much.
Yeah, isn't the Bark a fairly recent like opening? Because it wasn't only a few years ago it opened up.
I think it's been open for 4 years now, right?
Yeah, about 4 years. And before that, it was Bread and Rose's kitchen, and it was just a restaurant. But then they got a bigger. They would have shows in there.
It was across the street, yeah.
Yeah, but then they got a bigger space, and ever since then, they've just been hosting DIY shows, all sorts of shows.
I would say too that like the DIY and punk scene is kind of like also the reason why like the neighborhood where that stuff happens, and the art district, in a lot of ways, why they're popular, because like that's where the shows were happening, that's where kids were coming, and I think the city noticed, I think other people who were coming to Tallahassee noticed, and as a result, that whole like a lot of that Tallahassee area has like been developed a lot, and it's getting heavily gentrified.
Yeah, heavily gentrified. Now part of it has just been claimed as college town, and they wrote these in these big letters, college town.
Yeah, they took it over. The university was like, oh, this is ours now.
Whereas it used to be like a pretty industrial area, and you used to live over there. There's like warehouses where people would do punk shows and stuff.
A lot of biking, a lot of cycling when I was younger. Like a lot of like Tallahassee was like a bike punk town. As stupid as that sounds.
No, like most of the shows I've been to, I've pretty much been in that one block area, because it's most of the shows I've been to in Tally have either been the Bark or the Wilbury, who hasn't done shows since COVID, I don't think.
Oh yeah,
the Sidebar
area, yeah. Were you able to go to that skate park show recently?
No, I had to work that night.
Oh,
yeah,
well,
that was really
that
fun.
was cool. It was at the DIY skate park, and it didn't get shut down, so that was great.
Yeah, that's another thing about Tallahassee is like you'd be hard pressed to shut a show down. It's hard to. Like the cops rarely come out to shows.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you did come to the show at our house, and we didn't even get a noise complaint. I
Yeah.
guess we picked a good night.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
Do y'all put on a lot of house shows or like skate park shows or anything like that?
I think when there's like a good vibe with people like renting certain spots, then the house show scene comes to life a little bit.
Yeah, there used to be a bunch
But
of
not
house
so- yeah.
venues in town, and like when I first moved here, they were everywhere. But now it seems like there are less, or maybe they're more in like the college-y area. We kind of moved over to this side of town, but we put on at least 4 or 5 shows at this house and had no problems.
A
But
few loud shows, yeah.
yeah, it's definitely, the whole house scene has
Well,
changed a little bit.
So there used to be also the Armory, where like the band Armor played and practiced, and they had a bunch of shows there.
Way back there used to be Shark Tank, TV Land, Franklin Manor. There was a
AF House,
golden era where there were like 4 or 5 great
Punk houses all going at once,
punk
yeah.
houses that would host shows all the time. But the Bark has taken over a lot of that in a good way, because there's been like, for a little while, and especially even more so during COVID, there was kind of a lack of places to host shows. And so the Bark has done a good job of stepping in and giving people a place to do shows. And I know more house venues are popping up. That's just something we're starting to reacquaint ourselves with some of the younger kids, like the kids who are just going to college right now and starting bands. I know a lot of them have house venues that they're trying to get up on their feet. So that's something I always try to do, is stay in touch with what's going on, even if like, and also I really like trying to kind of bridge scenes, because like new scenes will pop up anywhere. A scene can just be a group of like 6 people who are friends with each other and are like, this is our scene, so I like to kind of bridge that, hopefully. And like, I try to go to things that I wouldn't always normally go to.
Something I've always wondered, and maybe you can have some insight into this, like it always kind of surprises me that there's not more crossover between like the punk and metal communities, considering the similarly chaotic nature of their music. So, and I know like Tallahassee, North Florida kind of have a relatively active metal scene. Like, why do you think there's not like more crossover shows between the two?
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, I think that I think there is sometimes will be some crossover, but I guess I'm not so aware of a metal scene up here. I think maybe metal sometimes has a reputation of not being as like social justice minded as punk, but maybe that's not true. I mean, I think, we've worked very hard to have a very feminist, very queer punk community. And I hope that's happening with metal scenes as well. And I assume it is, at least in some pockets. I think that the overlap I agree, it does seem natural. I don't know, what do you think?
I mean, I feel like metal kind of like took like diverged a couple of years ago in some ways, like, and you had like kind of like the more like ethically minded, like I would almost say like punk minded metal, maybe even bands like Thou, or like I don't know, going even further back or like bigger, like maybe a band like Kylesa or something like that, like who were like kind of like a little bit more like, I don't know, even had more of like a punk look in some ways. Like there is a lot of crossover, honestly. Like all the new hardcore bands, I feel like are like crossover bands. They're like metal tinged hardcore punk bands. But I think I know what you're talking about, because I know North Florida has like a really rich like metal kind of scene. I know Jacksonville does. I mean, there's like capital H like throwdown hardcore bands in Tallahassee and Jacksonville that are practically metal bands. They're like weird. They're like thrash, like crossover bands. Like, so I know what you're talking about. And I think some of those scenes maybe just invite a little bit more violence sometimes, and like a little bit less like open-mindedness sometimes. And that's probably why like there has been less crossover like at least for like for the very like in a very like obvious way, because obviously there are kids who love metal who are not like that. And like, I mean, I myself have been in like metal bands where like the people were not like that, and like people in my bands have not been like your typical metalhead bro, like, so Tallahassee in some ways, like in some like kind of like is like not super North Florida in that way, because there is kind of like a legacy of like brutal music in North Florida. But I don't know, like Dorie said, maybe that is changing. There's definitely more like crossover punk bands that are like fronted by women and people of color and queer people. That's I think the direction we should be going. I hope it keeps going that way. So, but yeah, I think it's just like the more violent aspect of it, and maybe the less open-minded aspect of it, in my opinion. I know it was pretty long-winded. Sorry.
It's how you give details. It's okay. So Dorie, you were saying how like you put on like poetry shows and stuff like that, and I know you've told me I think you have like a writing degree or whatever or like in your specialties poetry. Is that, did I remember correctly?
Yeah, so I did creative writing in my undergrad, and I'm actually just applied to creative writing MFA programs, and I like writing stories and poetry, and I hope to keep doing it. I hope I get into my master's program, so we'll see. But yeah, I love to write, and I love reading.
So how does that influence your like lyric writing?
So it's so funny because when I started writing lyrics, everyone who I knew, like family and friends, were like, "Oh, lyrics, those must come so naturally to you because you're a writer." But I actually feel like I got super tripped up when I first started writing lyrics. First of all, just because it can be really scary and make you feel vulnerable and insecure to write lyrics, but also because I'm used to being more like verbose, I guess, with my, writing a story or a poem or whatever. But with music, it's really about being immediate. And so I really had to learn how to just like stop saying so much and just say little, because less is more, I think, in lyrics. Everyone has their own lyric process, and I really love people who write lyrics that like tell stories and stuff. But for me, it was just kind of stripping it down and paying attention to the music. So I actually write music first, and then I just kind of fit lyrics over it that sound good. And I usually feel like my lyrics are more abstract than anything. I'm not super like specific or like storytelling with my lyrics. I kind of just think of images that are interesting to me, or like a biting phrase or something, and just kind of join it together. Yeah.
Do you write any lyrics, Sebastian?
Yeah, I write lyrics. Yeah.
You've actually talked to me about like writing. Something I've never done is write a poem and then set it to music, which is ironic. Like I do it the opposite, but I know that that's not always what you do. But
I haven't written anything in a long time, but yeah, usually when I mean, like I write a lot of the songs in Squeeze USA, and like in the bands that I've been in previously, like I do a lot of singing and stuff. So yeah, I remember. That's like Dorie said. Usually, I just write like some lyrics about something specific, like a story or like a concept or like some angry shit, and then just put music to it.
What's y'all's like general creative process, right? Like when just constructing an entire song?
Boy, that's a tough one. I mean, I feel like Dorie usually will just come up to me with like a song, like a riff or something like that, and then we'll sit at the drums, and she'll play it, and I'll play the drums, and then we'll like try to formulate the song a little bit, and then we'll get rhyming on it, and then by that point, usually will have started writing lyrics and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like I'm one of those people who has music in my head all the time. Like I have a little radio in my head, so I'm always like blah blah blah, like just singing songs. Usually they're just like songs that already exist, but sometimes it'll be something new, and I'll be like, oh yeah, this is a cool riff, and then I'll pick up the guitar, I'll play something, and then it'll all either be like, this is a good song or not, and then I don't know. Well, sometimes actually I feel like, again, like I've written songs for years, but it's only just in like Chatterer, kind of in Duckis, where I've been able to have a band like play my songs that I write. So a lot of it was just getting some confidence, because sometimes I'll be like, oh, here's just some stupid song, it's not good, and someone else will be like, no, that is good, that sounds like a song, and I'll be like, oh, okay. So I think you and I both just like come up with riffs all the time. We're very riffy. But yeah, I have music going in my head a lot. I was actually, this is kind of a tangent, but I was doing this like brain exercise quiz game on the computer today, and it was like asking me to memorize squares and like which squares light up. And then it was also asking me to memorize like numbers in the other game. And the way that I was memorizing it was like I would make a little song in my head, like do do do, or like 9 7 6 5 or whatever. Like I think I have a very music brain. I grew up like my family was always playing music. My parents are both musicians, so I feel like music just comes naturally to me. I don't know if like playing, I definitely had to practice physically playing because I used to not be very coordinated at all. But music is in my brain, and finally it's in my fingers. I'm finally getting like just better at my physical instrument. But for me, that's always been the hard part of music, is the hand-eye coordination.
What type of music do your parents play?
My dad is like a composer of, I guess, musical theater. And my mom, she used to be in a rock band. She used to play rock music and jazz music and country music. But she also plays, she's a bassist, and my dad plays a piano, but my mom is a bassist, and she also plays like orchestra music. She plays electric bass and double bass. Yeah, we always had instruments around growing up.
So how did each of you specifically get started playing music?
Well, my mom tried to teach me bass when I was a kid, and I didn't really gravitate towards it, even though I've always loved the bass. But then she instead tried to teach me guitar, because we also had a guitar. And that was much more interesting to me, because then I could sing along with it. And so I've been playing guitar probably since I was like 13 or 14. But I wasn't very good for probably like the first 8 years of playing guitar, but I did it, and I went online and I learned tabs and I learned songs that I liked. And then now I can play a little bit of keyboard and bass, and I'm learning drums. But what about you?
Well, I like my parents are hippies, so like when they liked a lot of like hippie music and shit like that. Like my dad played the guitar badly, and I guess I always wanted to play the guitar, but like I never really learned how to play guitar when I was little. So I was like in public school, just like music classes or whatever, and I had like a good voice for like a little kid, so I was like in chorus and stuff. And then I was in like orchestra in like elementary school and middle school at school. And then I was like, fuck all that shit. I want to play rock and roll. And so like I started trying to learn to play the guitar and the drums. And just like slowly but surely, I eventually learned how to play both those things well enough to play in bands. And that's it, yeah.
This is kind of random, but like, where does the name Duckis come from?
Duckis? Honestly, I feel like there's a lake near our house in Tallahassee called Lake Ella, and we would just go and look at the ducks sometimes. And I feel like ducks were just on my mind, and we were trying so hard to come up with band names. And then I don't know.
We were thinking about like what would be like a fun, like a cool, like one name hardcore band name, like but then we were messing around thinking about the ducks. And then there's this one duck in particular that's like a strange mixed breed of duck that has like
it's like crazy
half Muscovy and like half some other kind of duck, and it has like it has a wild haircut. It almost looks like a punk. It has like it has a monk, like a mohawk, yeah. And so we were like, oh yeah, that's the Duckis.
I also feel like I kind of relate to ducks, and that they're goofy, and I feel a little goofy, especially like, and I feel like in some ways Duckis, at least for me, was about like, hey, let's not take everything so seriously. Yeah. Like I'm weird, and I'm gonna be in a weird band and that has a weird name.
In some ways, we were like taking being weird pretty seriously.
I guess so.
Isn't that what being a punk's all about?
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree with that.
Well, I don't know. I do think sometimes there's like a pitfall of like, we're non-conformists, but then sometimes, I don't know, I can't help but be myself, and I think I've always been weird, and my parents have used to tell me being weird is okay. But sometimes, you know, in any culture or subculture, sometimes people do kind of seem like they have a prescribed way to look and dress and act, and even in the punk scene, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But for me, like, what's important to me about the punk scene is that I don't have to look or talk or act like everyone else. I can just be myself.
Yeah, I've always also been like a weird freak pariah, so it's fine. I embrace it.
How long has Duckis been around?
Well, I guess we're on hiatus right now because our bass player is like kind of like going through some band stuff and like just needs a little bit of a break. So, but
We were playing for like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, 2-3 years.
Yeah.
Because we put out our self-titled little self-release tape at the beginning of the pandemic in 2020, and we'd already been a band for like a year.
And what about your other two bands? How long have they been around?
Chatterer, less than a year.
Chatterer is less than a year.
And
Squeeze
USA
USA
less than a year.
less
Also,
than a year. Yeah.
Do you have any plans to release music for those two projects soon?
Yes.
Yeah, both of them. Yeah.
Chatterer, we already are almost done with our
Yeah,
EP.
yeah, we're recording a demo EP. Yeah.
And so that should be out honestly by
Sure,
February,
Yeah. We're almost
which
done
we're
with it.
very excited about. And yeah, Squeeze USA. You guys
Squeeze gonna put it, and we're gonna put it out on. I have a little tape label that I run where I do like mostly like regional stuff, Florida and Georgia and Alabama, but some Philly stuff. And that's both of those things are definitely gonna be out on Rip Records tape label.
Tell me more about your tape label.
Well, it's something that I like kind of been doing off and on for like a decade, but I only really started taking it seriously like at the beginning of the pandemic. Like I was like, okay, now I'm gonna actually put out other bands that aren't just bands I'm involved with, and it's been really fun. It's really cool to like help bands that I know, especially smaller bands who don't necessarily have like the internet clout of like today's most popular bands. It's really nice, and the bands really appreciate it. I don't really make any money at all, but generally I've been breaking even. You know, selling tapes is not an expensive endeavor. Tapes are pretty cheap, so I do like keeping prices cheap, and like I don't know, that feels like more like legit to me. And it's really fun. Like I said, I usually only do limited runs. So once like the 40 or 50 tape run is done, like that's it. Yeah, it's a cool model. I mean, I could talk about tapes all day, but you don't want to hear that. Yeah, it's just something I've been doing, and I'll probably keep doing it as long as it's self-sustaining.
Is there a reason that you focus on like cassettes instead of using like CDs?
Yeah. So no, I don't think anybody uses CDs anymore. Like mostly people are just consuming music on the internet. So I think there's like kind of like a nostalgic appeal to tapes. I also like the way tapes sound. I've always been like a sucker for tapes since I got into like music and going to shows and stuff like that since I was a teenager. So, you know, I've always been into tapes, and like I love this like the feeling of like putting a tape in, you know, listening the whole way through. And then you have to flip it over, you know, and listen to all the other songs on the other side and shit. So like you're not being selective. You're kind of just like forced to sit down and listen to an album like continuously. And I don't know, I think for me there's something to that. I really enjoy listening to tapes while I'm making tapes. And it's kind of weird, but it makes sense to me.
I want your opinion on something. So like I interviewed this dude on Sunday, and he works at a record store or whatever, and he described tapes as stickers that play music, which I thought was really funny. So I just want to know what's your opinion on that. How does that sound to you?
Stickers that play music, I mean, kind of, because like sometimes you'll like order something and you'll get a bunch of stickers and you're like, oh man, that's really cool. Look at all these really great stickers. Like, and then you don't put them anywhere, but like you have them, you know, and then like they'll be like in your books or like in like a trunk or something, right? And you're like, or in a drawer, and you'll be looking through and you'll be like, oh, look at this great fucking cool ass sticker I got. And like maybe you'll put it on something, but it'll be something that maybe you forgot about. And like a tape is kind of similar. It's like where you'll come across it and be like, oh, cool, this tape, I love this band. And then you're like, oh, I don't really have a tape player, so you put it away. And then you come across it later, and then maybe one day you do have a tape player, so you listen to it once, and then maybe the tape player breaks or something, and then like you know, so but it still lingers. You're always gonna open the drawer and find it. But what I like about like doing it nowadays is that you can always put like a download code in the tape, you know?
Yeah.
And then
it's kind
and
of about
listen to it
having
online.
something physical, and like it's a lot for the art. Like in a way,
Yeah, the
it's almost like
sticker, yeah.
collecting tapes is about collecting the art in the
Kind of
tapes.
so,
And
yeah.
then you could probably listen to the band online if you don't have a tape player. But like if you have that tape, it's like a special
Yeah, and like
item.
honestly, as somebody who likes stickers and like all sorts of weird shit like that, like stickers and like weird little like I don't know
collectible
graffiti
playing
and
cards.
things like that. No, not for that.
Magic the Gathering.
Anyway, no. That's not this.
Don't feel ashamed.
But yeah, somebody who likes stickers, I think that's a cool comparison, honestly. As long as they weren't being negative, I support that.
No, I think they meant it positively. Don't worry.
Oh, good. Oh, okay, that's cool.
So how far outside of Tallahassee have y'all played before?
Honestly, not much. We had planned a whole Duckis tour all the way to Philadelphia and Ohio and Chattanooga, but then
Oh, yeah.
that tour
Philly.
was, and
Oh,
yeah,
Oh, you
yeah.
said Philly, right.
But
Sorry.
then that tour got canceled because it was like the same week as when COVID-19 got very serious. So honestly, I've only played Miami is the farthest I've ever played a show, or Savannah, but you've played a little bit farther.
Yeah, I haven't been. I mean, a bunch of the bands I've been in have done out of town shows and have toured. But yeah, probably. I mean, Miami, or I played in Asheville. I played in Chattanooga. Definitely, I played in Atlanta, Savannah, New Orleans.
We hope to schedule another big tour because that would be really awesome. Because
Yeah,
I really wanted to
We
do kind
definitely
of
want to get into the Midwest.
go up to the Midwest and Northeast.
So what's shows looking like right now with Omicron?
Yeah, not likely, I guess, but maybe
Well-
at the end of the year.
Well, at the end of the year.
Oh no! What am I talking about? We have actually. Oh yeah, that's cool. Oh, I'm so stupid. Yeah, we actually have a little mini tour scheduled already. We're
Yeah.
gonna try to do 4 dates in Florida with a band from Miami called Gordo, and hopefully another band from Miami called Wastelands.
And that would be in April.
Yeah, that would be in April. And
And yeah, we have some shows in February and March. I think that everyone's hoping that, well, at least what I've heard is that Omicron's going to kind of start dying down towards the end of January. So yeah, February, March, April, I think we want to do a lot of shows and hopefully a bigger
I
tour
totally forgot,
in
yeah.
the summer. But yeah, I think we have a show booked on February 1st. So hopefully that stays put. I think,
The RCB USA show got canceled.
yeah. Yep.
With the one that we were gonna play with Aviation.
But we've got some stuff coming up for sure. Yeah. And we're gonna open for Chris Gethard, and that got moved to May 5th.
Yeah.
So that I feel dumb. Like whenever I read his name, I pronounced it Get Hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's
I'm sure he would love that.
that's
A
everyone
classic,
says
yeah.
that to him. Yeah. I think it might be one of those
Oh, wow.
things where that people used to annoy him. But
I just got rescheduled. Are y'all still gonna be able to play the May date for it?
I think
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, May 5th.
Also interesting to me that a comedy show had bands playing like as openers. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah, I think Chris Gethard's cool because I think he's always had like bands on his variety show and whatnot, and he's like, and he always does it set at Fest too. I think he's kind of tied into punk stuff.
So do you guys have any like go-to crazy tour stories?
I mean, not really. I mean, I do have one time when I was in Atlanta. After playing a show with like an old band, a long time ago. I remember scaling a wall that must have been like 12 feet high, and just like shoeless, bare feet. And then the next morning, like I looked at my toe, and like my big toe had a splinter that was like the entire length of my toe, like from the tip
God.
to the like where the digit ends. You know, the big toe, the biggest toe digit, and it was in my foot. Like it was so deep in my foot that I couldn't really see it like completely. I could just tell that it was under there.
Ugh.
And I had to like on tour, I had to like cut my toe open essentially with like my friend's knife. And like seriously like a 1/4 inch deep all the way the length down my toe in order to pick this fucking splinter out. And it was seriously like a goddamn needle. It was massive.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
Ugh.
Did it leave a scar?
It did not, no. It didn't leave a scar.
Wait, why were you scaling the wall?
Because we were in a pool and I was just very drunk.
That's yeah, I mean,
I think we were running away from the pool because it was like 2 a.m. Anyway, sorry.
no, yeah, I don't have, I can't think of any like notable tour stories. I can think like we've gone to some cool punk shows, like that one in Respectable Street in West Palm at We Are the Punks.
Oh yeah, that was
We went to some, we've gone to some funny punk fests, like, and we also went to Everything Is Not Okay in Oklahoma. And both of those shows, I think I got kicked in the head, but in a mosh pit.
Yeah.
But
A-Knock 4 was really cool.
which is, you know, that's it's to be expected.
Like, since coming back from COVID, have you noticed any like marked differences in just like people's responses to music or anything, or the way people are making it?
I think just the fact that there's less shows, I think maybe more people are coming out to the shows that do happen.
That's true. I mean, I've noticed just a lot more people like just making music and using the internet as like their main platform, not only for like putting their music out, but also for performing their music, you know. And like there's like a whole new music scene essentially that is like located on the internet. And that's not new, but I think that it's been like really highlighted throughout the pandemic, and like it's probably not going anywhere.
Yeah, and also I think maybe this was already happening before the pandemic, but like, yeah, shows, finding out about shows on Instagram is a big thing now. Like we went over the summer to New York when at the end of the summer when everyone was like, oh yeah, like COVID's not really an issue anymore, we're all vaccinated. Then we went to New York and there were like 3 different punk shows I found out about just by looking on Instagram and finding flyers for shows.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool. Like it's yeah, I think people are using the internet in interesting ways to promote stuff.
Oh, I will say in New York City, every show and thing that we went to, not only did you have to wear a mask, you also had to show your vaccination card. And like there wasn't a single problem. Like everyone was happy to do it. Like the shows were well attended and you could be safe feeling like that, like, oh shit, everyone's here is vaccinated and is wearing a mask. And throughout that whole time, New York had some of the lowest COVID transmission rates like in the country. And in Florida, we were doing the absolute opposite, and our rates were like through the fucking roof.
Yeah. Although now it's different. Now
it's
everyone's
different, yeah.
getting Omicron.
Yeah. Now with the new variant, it's different.
I possibly
But at the
got
time,
Omicron last week. Super weird. I got one positive test, and then all my other tests have been negative since then.
Yeah, we've been quarantining for like a week.
I guess I maybe got just a hint of Omicron. I didn't feel any symptoms or anything, so that was really weird. Anyway.
Is this what the vaccine does?
Yeah, I guess so. Let's hope so.
Yeah, I suppose so. Because yeah, I didn't feel anything, but then I took that one test and I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, I found out like a week ago that apparently like in Florida it's illegal for a place to require vaccine cards to get in. I thought it was so crazy.
That was DeSantis's bullshit.
Yeah, they were still going to try to do that at Bark for some shows, but I don't think they ended up doing it. Like there have been a lot like more outdoor shows, which is kind of cool. I like outdoor shows, but I'm just excited for everything to get more back to normal. I think at the beginning of the pandemic, a lot of people were like, this is going to kill DIY, this is going to kill punk, this is going to kill shows. And I'm very glad that hasn't happened. And I don't think there's a world where that can happen. We always need music.
No, I don't think so either. We definitely will persist. The subculture and the undergrounds always persist.
Yeah, I think people will always crave some type of real world experience, even if we do move more of our lives digitally. I don't think that's the end all be all for much of anybody.
Oh, I
Yeah.
completely agree with you. Yeah.
I do think that's like kind of what went into like people coming out after COVID, is that like being stuck in a digital world made people really gravitate toward the stuff outside of that.
Oh my God. No, tell me about it. Just like any sense of like belonging in a place where other people are around you. Like just giving yourself permission to be in the proximity of another person. Like that feels radical for sure. I know what you mean.
All right. Well, I don't want to keep y'all too long, so I'll probably start wrapping it up.
You should go get pizza after this too, because that's what we're gonna do.
This is not a bad idea. The last thing I like to ask if people have on is, who's a band or artist in your local scene you want to like give a shout out to?
Oh, easy. Okay, a band or
Theo
artist.
Butts.
Well, okay, there's a few people. So
our friend Marcus.
first of all, I
Okay.
want to shout out to Stephanie Shrewsbury, like one of the greatest local artists in Tallahassee, like super duper, like underappreciated, like, but so fucking talented. I've been in so many bands with her. Well, I've been in one main band with her, Vile Body. So I want to shout out to Stephanie Shrewsbury. And then, yeah, we'll shout out our homies, Theo Butts, Marcus, who is the drummer of Duckis.
Mm-hmm.
And
Boo, our friends in Boo.
Our friends in Boo, who are our homies also, our bass players, other band. And we'll give a shout out to Addison also. And of course to Ryan, our bass player of Chatterer.
What's Bella's band called?
Well, we're going to shout out.
Medusa Phase.
Oh, Medusa Face.
Yeah. Phase.
Oh, Medusa Phase. That's right.
Yeah,
Medusa Phase.
That's Bella.
Phase. Medusa Phase. And then we'll also shout out we'll shout out the Bark Vegetarian Restaurant and venue and bar. I'll shout out my homies in Dynastic Yellow Star Label. I'll shout out.
Oh yeah, there's some good Tallahassee hip hop. You can look up Dallas Aaliyah.
Oh, yeah.
And Kenise.
Dallas Aaliyah, Kenise. Oh, we'll also shout out Buster Wolf.
We're just listing.
We're gonna shout out everybody from Tallahassee.
Everyone. I love everyone.
Okay, we'll shout out KLTP Records. Getting along with them recently. They're really nice kids.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna shout out. Oh my God, what was the other one? Oh,
Black Sun, Black Moon.
Oh, Black Sun, Black Moon. We're gonna shout out
Black Sync.
Oh yeah, we're gonna shout out my homie Dave, Black Sync.
Clavalux,
noise musician extraordinaire. Oh, our other little homie, No Face.
No Face.
Another noise musician, and of course everybody that we love. We'll shout out our dog Bullet.
Oh, so that's why the flyer set up Bullet's house.
Oh yeah.
We couldn't meet Bullet's 15. Okay, Bullet's a 15-year-old Mastiff lab mix. He loves people. He would have been frolicking and joyful out with everybody, except he would also just been like a lump on the ground that would have been impossible to move when all the shit got started. So I had to keep him in the back room. But he would have loved everybody.
But I hear him tap dancing right now.
Yeah, he's tap dancing. That's for sure. But he's 15, so he's an old man.
It's because Sebastian always fed him high quality dog food.
Good man.
Yeah.
Didn't Vile Body do a comeback show on New Year's Eve?
We were going to, and then it got canceled.
Omicron canceled it, but you guys should definitely do a comeback show. One of their best songs is "I Put a Bomb in the Stadium, No More Stadium."
I didn't write that one, but it's.
I
played drums.
The stadium.
I don't know about y'all's stadium, but like I know a cop in Athens. Like I went to high school with him, and he told me that they have that UGA has a SWAT team like at the ready for all their football games.
Oh my gosh! Wow,
it's fucking ridiculous. Like they actually think that like that they're in danger for some reason. Like
the oppressed football.
I mean, did you hear about the I don't know how you feel about guns, and regardless of how you feel about guns, either way, this is ridiculous. This is a Second Amendment, like kind of like really pro-gun, right-wing, like kind of a nut job, who's already like, you probably heard about this in the news, He had already been like arrested for like brandishing a gun and like ramming somebody off the road in 2016. And this guy is like a fucking politician. He works in government. This is the last thing I'll say. Just yesterday, and it's I mean, the guy died. I'll just full disclosure. The man died. But why? He rammed a guy off the road. They met up in the parking lot with the intention of, I assume, having a gun duel. This guy pulled out his gun, rammed his BMW into the guy's Prius, shot at him, and the guy in the Prius pulled out a gun and promptly killed him. It's just like
In Tallahassee.
it just doesn't get much more ironic than that.
Yeah, y'all aren't doing anything to help the Florida man stereotype.
No, nothing whatsoever.
Yeah, no. Be wary of the men in their BMWs.
Yeah, I know. Jesus Christ.
Oh, what a great way to finish it. Okay, so all right.
Jesus Christ.
Give us where to find you. Where's your music? Any upcoming projects you want people to know about? All that.
Yeah. Chatterer is gonna release a demo soon.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. If you care about if you care about those releases,
And follow
just-
Rip Tape Label.
yeah, just rip_tape_label on Instagram. That's pretty much the only place I put shit up, and on the Bandcamp, which is just Rip Records Bandcamp.
Alrighty. Thank y'all so much for coming on. Hopefully I'll be able to see y'all at a show soon.
Oh, thanks so much for having us.
Thanks so much for talking to us.
Thank you. Have a good night.